Hello there everybody, how's it going? It's Jessie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff here on FlossTube. I am coming to you on this Monday, December 5th, 2022 with my next update video. I don't think this is going to be my last update for the year, but we're getting pretty close to that because we are in December. It's the last month of the year. Wow, that went fast, didn't it? 2022 was quite a quick year. But before I go off on that tangent for too long, I would like to say welcome. Welcome to both my returning and also new viewers. On this channel, I talk mostly about cross-stitch, and that's kind of all we're going to talk about today. Sometimes I talk about books and knitting, but I haven't really done any of that, so we're just talking cross-stitch today. So I have a little bit of a whip update and some plans and a little bit of new stash to discuss with you today. This isn't going to be a terribly long video. That is intentional. FlossTube is madness right now, isn't it? With everybody doing Flossmas, there's little videos to watch every single day, and there's a lot of people doing Flossmas this year. So I'm not going to hold you up from that for very long. And I don't have a whole lot to show you since I filmed 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago? I didn't, maybe only a week and a half. It hasn't been that long. Anyway, so yeah, I suppose we will jump right in. So here's the thing. I wasn't necessarily planning on filming today. I kind of got the wild hair to do so a bit last minute, and so I don't have Q&A to go over with you. That's not to say that there aren't questions in my last video, it's just that I didn't pull any. I haven't gone through the comments and hearted everybody's comment. And secondary to that, I don't have a tally for Dumbo versus the Swans. So that we'll have to talk about that at another time. So I'm sorry, but I don't have the results, so to speak, just yet. So we'll talk about that next time. Okay, now let's jump in and let's talk about works in progress. It's mostly finishes around here, but let's get it going. So the first thing I have to show you, which lives in this project bag, which I showed you last time, and this is a Stitch and Button project bag. Her bags are fantastic. She does these zipper pulls with the charms. Yep, love this. And in here is my Gaia by Filipina. And I told y'all the last time that I filmed that I was working on this for a little bit more, just I think the rest of that day, and that was probably going to be as far as I was able to get, and that was true. And I didn't end up doing a whole lot that Saturday, and now why escapes me, but anyway, or maybe it was Sunday. I don't remember, and it doesn't really matter. So here's where I got to, and I think all I added really since that was this little bit here. So not a whole lot added, but loving it. Yeah, really loving it, and looking forward to being able to work on this again in the new year. It's not going to be until then when I get to work on it again, but I'm going to work on it some more. But yeah, I really want to stitch a bunch more Bellas, and we're going to start with Gaia. So this is on a 32 count Belfast linen in The Dirt by Fortnite Fabrics. It was from their spring summer collection, I believe, from this past spring and summer. I don't know if this is available anywhere anymore. I don't know, but that's what the fabric is anyway. So that is Gaia. As I mentioned in my last video, there was one more project that I told myself I was going to try to get to in November, and that project was from this book, Sweet Land of Liberty by Blackbird Designs, and it was this design here, the American Eagle. And my idea was that I was going to work on it a little bit here and there to try to finish it this year, but I had no grand plans for when that was going to happen. I just promised myself that I would work on it in November and try to piecemeal this one, since it is a struggle project for me, just from concept. So anyway, all of that to say, I pulled this out to work on after finishing my rotation on Gaia, and I set to working on it, and then I finished it. Yeah, I reached a point where it was like past the point of no return, and so I just finished it. I just finished it. So obviously this looks quite a bit different than the one on the cover there. So mine is on a 40 count Newcastle linen in Stratus by Color and Cotton. And this is a colorway you can find. You can find it on the Color and Cotton website. You can find it on secondhand markets. I think 123 Stitch is going to carry it. This is a regular color. I basically chose all of my own colors. I will put in the description box the colors that I used, my conversion, if you will. But I basically chose my own colors for this one, just based on stash, not based on the color of the fabric, but just based on stash. I decided to pick my own threads. So the reason that this project was a struggle for me is that it's very patriotic. It's got a lot of patriotic imagery, and I struggle with overt patriotic imagery because there are some things about this country in which I live, in which I call home, that I'm not happy with. I'm not happy with the way that things are going in a lot of aspects. Have gone in recent years. It's just all very complicated. It's all very complex and very complicated, and people who wear their patriotism very loudly nowadays, we are not the same. We are not the same. So stitching a design that is very overtly patriotic is difficult. It's very difficult for me. So I've made some changes. Most notably is that I changed America to Hope. And then there were some other things that I changed. For instance, I added in the letters C and P and F, and respectively those stand for change, progress, and forward. So change, progress, forward, and hope, those were all a part of President Obama's campaign slogans, both in 2008 and 2012. And I just thought that I needed to represent that here. That was a moment in time, specifically the 2008 election, that stands out very strongly in my mind. It stands out as a moment of personal pride of country. That was my first election. It was my first presidential election. It was my first election. And it was historic, to say the least. It was historic. So I wanted to change the feeling with this to a moment like that. Because I changed Hope in for America, it kind of left a bunch of open space. So I pulled a star from another design from that book. These letters were pulled from another design in that book. I mean, they're just basic sampler letters, but all the same, that's where I got them from. I also made the thread in the eagle's needles. So the eagle is holding some needles with thread. It's charted in red. I made it blue. I feel like Merriweather from Sleeping Beauty, but make it blue. And I'm much happier with it. I wish that I had found a way to rechart the flag upside down, but I'm okay with it, with the changes that I did make. There are some parts of this that I said in my Instagram post that parts of it feel unbalanced. There's a lot of empty space here. There's a lot of empty space here. It feels unbalanced. And I have felt unbalanced since 2016. So it's fitting. It's fitting for me. So there is that. Anyway, I'm happy with the finish. I'm happy to have it done. And I do think I will, along with everything else, fully finish this and display at some point, because I stitched it. I stitched that big old house. Anyway, so that is my finished Hope Eagle, is what I'm gonna call it. Hope Eagle. That was started in Mania of 2020. It was finished December 1st, 2022. I tried so hard to get it finished on November 30th, but I ended up not eating lunch that day, and so I was like this. I couldn't stitch because I was so shaky and so I was not feeling well. So I finished it as fast as I could on December 1st. So that is finish number 1 for December 1st. Because I told you that I was going to finish this project on December 1st. And so that was it. I had to do it. I had to do it. If nothing else, I had to finish this project on December 1st. So this is Bluebeard's Princess Mirabella by Mirabilia. And okay, truth be told, I didn't have to finish it on December 1st, but I had so little left to do that it was possible. Now, this weekend, my husband went out of town for a board gaming conference. Not really a conference, more like a board gaming retreat weekend. And so I had the house to myself, and so I could stitch without, just on my own once kiddo went to bed. So it was totally feasible for me to stay up a little late and get this done. And so I did. Oh, look at that light. And the sparkle. So I finished her. And I'm going to just bring her in close and work my way up so that y'all can see. Hopefully you can see the sparkle. I tried very hard to get pictures of the sparkle and I wasn't having much success. So we'll just scroll a little bit so that y'all can see, and then I'll talk all the details. So the fabric is a 32 count. I'm so excited she's done. It's a 32 count Belfast linen in Knix from Under the Sea Fabrics. This is stitched using all of the called for DMC and Caron water lilies. I changed 3 of the Krynics to converted petite treasure braid. I used all of the called for beads because this one calls for Magnifica beads, which are, if they're not Delica beads rebranded, they're very similar to Delica's. They are cut beads, and so they're all uniform in shape and size. And they're flatter than Mill Hill seed beads. So this one is what the called for, which is so unlike me. I stitched the skin 1/1. And if you stitch this design and you decide to go with the skin 1/1, just be forewarned that there's a stretch here. It is 50 stitches wide on the chart. That converts to 200 1/1 stitches in one line. It's like the widest point of her shoulders. It was a lot. It was a lot of 1/1. I also changed the back stitch of her skin. It's charted in 2 strands. I made it 1 strand. The border, as charted, is one of the Caron water lilies all the way around, and then another Caron water lily in like 11 stitch little chunks all the way around. I didn't care for it, and I certainly didn't want to stitch it, and it was back stitched on the outside too. Nope. No thank you. So I decided to go with a single herringbone stitch. It is done in a Dinky Dyes hydrangea, which is a pale purple, but on this very dark fabric it looks white. So, take that as you will. It is a silk, but you can't tell. Even my signature, I did my signature in that, and it still looks white. But anyway, yeah. Is that all the changes that I made? I think so. I think that's all the changes that I made. Yeah, I think so. There is one thing. You see that stretch of skin on her side there that's paler? I think that's a typo in the pattern. I checked the Mirabilia errata page and I couldn't find anything that said that. And stitching skin 1/1, like, I was not going to rip it out, so I didn't. So it looks a little funny there. I think that's meant to be the darkest skin shade right there for the shadow, much like on the other side. But anyway, I'm not sure that any of y'all would have noticed that if I didn't point it out. And now it's all you can see. That's fine. I'm not bothered. Mirabilia finish. This one feels different than my other Mirabilias, and I was trying to figure out why that is. And I think the reason that this one feels different is that my other Mirabilias, I didn't stitch like this. This one this year I broke it up into 12 parts and worked my way down, as we've talked about several times this year. And my other Mirabilias have been these chunk rotations, if you will, and then this final big push to the finish. And this took me an hour and a half to finish. So it didn't feel like that big push to a finish because it didn't take me days. It took me 90 minutes. It took no time at all to get this one done. So it doesn't feel as momentous as perhaps Stargazer or Winter White Santa or Raven Queen, and certainly Lady of the Flag. This one doesn't feel as momentous as those did, even though she's about the same size as the rest of them. So I don't know. It's just very interesting. Breaking it up really does kind of change a lot about it. Now, don't get me wrong. I loved breaking it up. That was great. I got regular work on her, so I got some regular Mirabilia stitching, but it wasn't so much. It wasn't stressful at the end. It was great. It was great. So my sections were the entire height of the design divided by 12, which conveniently is an even 19 stitches by the width. And so I committed to doing all of the beads and backstitch as I went. When I picked this piece up this year, I had the DMC stitched up here, and I had some of this done, and certainly her hair was all done. And that was pretty much the DMC that I stitched this year. But I had all of that other stuff to do as well. I started this project in March of 2016. And March of 2016 is an interesting month for me personally. I left my last job in March of 2016 after some work-related or work-induced anxiety attacks that sent me home from work a lot of times. And it's that job gave me month-long migraines. So it was kind of a rough a rough time. It was also in the couple of months leading up to my wedding. So just add that layer of stress onto everything else. I started this at an interesting time, and that is reflected in the reason that I started this. I decided randomly in March of 2016 that I was going to try a mostly monogamous March, and I was going to tackle this project, and I was going to stitch it to the finish. Start early March and stitch it until it was done, or the end of the month. And y'all know that's not me. I mean, I tend to go a little bit monogamous, but it's never stitch a Mirabilia from start to finish. That's not me. That's just not me. So that just kind of goes to show what my mental status was at that time of my life. It was questionable, to say the least. And then, because I'm me, I couldn't do that, and I barely touched this for 5 years since. 6 years. Yeah, 6 years. It sat, pretty much. some occasional little bits here and there worked on this, but for the most part, it sat like that for 6 years. So I started this project before we got married, and I finished it when our daughter is very quickly almost 2. What? Yeah, that's pretty wild. So anyway, that is my finished Bluebeard's Princess Mirabella, and thanks y'all for cheering on as I worked on her this year. It's funny, this project I'm always going to associate with Laurel. She's Laurel Ann here on FlossTube, because she's loved this piece ever since I started it. She was always telling me to work on this one. And so I'm always going to connect this project with Laurel. So anyway, that is my finished Bluebeard's Princess Mirabella. And that is finish number 13 for 2022. And I estimate about 57 stitching days, but that is a true estimate. I wasn't tracking stitching days before 2017, so take that with a big old grain of salt. American Eagle, Bluebeard's Princess, all of that was on December 1st. And also on December 1st, I was to start Summer Montage by Pain Free Crafts. Artwork by Janet Stever. This was to go with the hashtag here. The Stever Art Stitch Along, a bunch of folks, I think headed up by Stitchin' Mommy Sarah, were stitching these designs pretty seasonally this year. And I fell victim to FOMO, and I needed Summer Montage in my life. So I planned to start this on December 1st. By the time I had finished Bluebeard's Princess Mirabella, I had to go to bed. But my plan was to start this first thing December 2nd, Friday morning. And I was going to stitch it on 40 count Newcastle linen in Vintage Country Mocha from Zweigart. And I thought this would be a really great fabric, or a really great opportunity, excuse me, to stitch a design 1/2 on 40 count linen. I was really excited about it. This fabric is not big enough. A fat quarter is not enough. I was thinking that 25 count and 20 count were similar. I don't know why I was thinking that, but yeah, it's not gonna fit. It's not gonna fit on this. So I was kind of left with this, like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? Do I stitch it on white even weave? I don't really want to do that. I don't really want to use another piece of my Easy Grid, because I kind of have the Easy Grid stuff pegged for certain things. But what am I going to do? So this is going to dip into haul a little bit. When I bought the 40 count, I also bought 25 count, also Vintage Country Mocha, because I was afraid that I would chicken out on the 40 count 1/2. Not because 40 count is too small, just because it would be very different full coverage stitching for me, and so I wondered if maybe I would chicken out. So I bought this just in case, and figured I could use it for something at some point, if not this. So I debated for Thursday night and Friday, December 1st and 2nd, what I was going to do, if I was going to try to order another big piece of this or go with this and just make it work. I've decided I'm going to go with this. I'm going to make it work on the 25 count, and eventually I'll do a project 1/2 on 40. It's not going to be this one, which I'm kind of okay with, because I'd like to stitch them all. I'm just starting with Summer because it's the one that has captivated me the most. But eventually I would like to stitch them all, and I don't really want to stitch all of them on 40 count. So we're going to go with the 25 count 1/1. However, I needed something to work on. I needed a project to work on. And while I was mulling that over, I needed something for my Friday morning coffee and stitch. So I spun the wheel, and it pulled Witches of Salem, by the primitive Hare, which lives in this project bag here. And I'm not pulling anything out of that because it's on my frame. And so here is where I am up to. I always feel silly when I say this is where I'm up to, considering I work my way down. But anyway, so this is where I'm up to. This is on a 28 count linen in gold sand by Extra Designs. It's a Marron linen. It's not a Zweigart linen. It's not a Zweigart Cashel, but it is a beautiful linen, if a little bit crunchier than the Zweigart bases that I'm used to. So now that American Eagle is finished, this is my new struggle piece because I want it finished so bad, and it's taken a while. It's taken a while to get finished. It's taking longer than I wanted it to. I wanted to finish this in October. Here we are, it's December, and I've got a ways to go yet. I still have a ways to go. So this is my new struggle piece. So I worked on this on Friday and Saturday of this weekend, and then I was meant to work on it yesterday, Sunday, but I ended up not stitching it all yesterday. I just wasn't in the mood for this. I wasn't feeling this. And so I just didn't stitch. I ended up choosing not to stitch rather than work on this, which is a little frightening for a piece that I'm still trying to finish this month. But anyway, so my plan was to switch projects last night to set up for this morning to move on to something else. So I spun the wheel and I chose the project, and then I never set it up on my frame. I totally forgot. And then it got to be bedtime and I was like, well, I'll just work on that again in the morning, and then I'll switch for tomorrow night and beyond. And so I stitched on it this morning, and I was really into it. I was really feeling my stitching this morning. I want to be stitching right now, but I decided to film today. So I'm not stitching right now, but I really want to. I want to be stitching on this. And I think that what changed for me is that I think I've worked out that I have about 6 days left, including today. I have 1 day allotted. I've now decided. I have 1 day allotted to this center vine and the little bit of ground underneath her feet. I'm nearly done the tree, and then there's a little bit of ground underneath her feet. So there's 1 day. I have 3 more names left, so there's 1 day. I have the date plate, which is a big old section that says 1692. I'm going to allot 3 days to that. It looks like to be about 800 stitches, so I'm going to allot 3 days. Allot 3 days. And then there's the banner thing on the bottom to sort of frame the bottom, if you will. And I'm going to give that 1 day. So I think I have 6 days left, including today. I think I can do it. I think I can do it. I think I can finish it this month, this week. So I'm not holding myself to that. If it gets to be tomorrow and I'm like, never mind, I can't do it anymore, then so be it. I'll switch and I'll come back to it later. But as of today, as of this moment right now, I want to finish her. So I'm going to finish this project this week. That's the plan. Anyway, as always with me, plans are written in sand, and the tide is coming up. So hold me to nothing on that one, on that front. So that's going to help us segue into plans. I have all of the projects that I would like to work on this month on a wheel, and so I'm spinning that when it's time to rotate. Either I reach my goal, or I finish the project, or I just need to walk away from a project for a while. So I have everything in a wheel. And I told y'all that after Saturday's stitching on Witches of Salem, I had already spun the wheel. And so my next project is going to be Snow Castle by Randall Spangler. The long story short is that I'm trying to get as many page finishes as I can. So I have this project, and I have Quick Stitch Day and Night as my full coverage whips to work on. I also have Summer Montage that I'm going to start this month, but I have these projects, these whips in here. And a page finish would also be a row finish on this piece. So, and since I started it in 2017 in December, I'm in the mood. So here's where I'm up to. Not to mention, Deborah, this is your fault. Deborah, AZ Needleworker, started this piece recently, and she's about past me already. She started it this year. She's about past me. So I have just this little corner to do on Snowcastle. 25 count, easy grid, 1/1 full cross. So that's going to be my next project once I either finish or can't anymore with Witches of Salem. So that's that plan. And then we'll spin the wheel and we'll see what's next. So not a whole lot in the way of plans. I think that was like a minute segment. So we're going to switch over and we're going to talk about a little bit of haul. Placed a couple of orders with Tiny Hummingbird Stitchery. That is Sammy J Stitches. It is her Facebook-based stitchy shop. And I made sure to pick up Heartstring Samplery's Scary Sampler. And I've been off camera sipping coffee from my Scary Sampler mug. So she has a Society 6 account. And so I picked up the Scary Sampler because I love this design. I loved this design before I looked closer and before I read the details on this design. So there's all sorts of sci-fi / horror / fantasy references throughout this design. There's references to Stranger Things. These flowers are meant to look like the Demigorgons. Beetlejuice, X-Files, Men in Black. There's the Death Star. You think it's the moon. It's not. It's the Death Star. These are pterodactyls for Jurassic Park. There's just so much cool stuff that Beth packed into this. And so I had to get the mug to go along with it. I mean, it's cool just to begin with before you even see all those cool pop culture references. So genius. Beth Twist is a genius. And I am looking forward to starting this next year at some point. I don't have any specific plans, but at some point I would like to start this next year. So there is that. And then while we were at retreat, while we were at Stitching in the Springs, sitting next to me was Annette. Annette is Janet Jabber's sister. And at some point she started this design, and we get home and I messaged Sammy and I said, I'm going to need all of these. I'm going to need all 12. So it's another monthly series. But this is the monthly Quakers from the Heart Needle Art by Wendy. And I'm going to need all of them. I'm going to need all 12 of them. So gorgeous. So pretty. So I'm going to get these probably a couple a month until I have them all collected. So here is January and here is December. Sammy wasn't sure when I was going to start, so we started with January and December. I'm going to start these next year. So there's that. And then we also got Quaker Bells because a Christmassy one sounds good too. So pretty. I'm so excited to start that. And then I think Sammy's going to start them with me. I think we're going to stitch them together. My thinking, I heard from Carolyn Zook and Sarah Stitch and Mommy talking about a seasonal Sunday. This might be my seasonal Sunday project. Because they are seasonally, I mean, they're monthly pieces, so they're seasonally attached. So I think that may be my plan for if I can get on board with doing a seasonal Sunday piece. You'll know I'm not so great at working on a piece one day, like for one day. I normally need a longer rotation than that. So we'll see. We'll see. So that is it for the haul. I have more stuff in my mailbox, but I forgot to grab it before I started filming today, so we'll just save that for the next one. Speaking of my next video, the next video that you can expect to see on this channel is coming this weekend, and that is going to be my WIPGO 2023 video. It's going to be largely the same as WIPGO 2022, but some minor adjustments, and annually I like to publish a video just to answer some questions, to get ahead of some questions that are inevitably going to pop up. Speaking of WIPGO, since we are coming to a new year of WIPGO is gearing up, it's a big request to join the Facebook group season. And so let me just get ahead of this right now. If you are requesting to join the Facebook group, I need you to answer those 4 questions. Otherwise, I'm going to decline you, and I don't really want to do that, but I will. So just answer the 4 questions, and you will be able to get in the group. I am approving people throughout the day. So, as I said, the WIPGO video will be this weekend, and then at some point in the next few weeks, I'm hoping to be able to film at least one more update video. And I would also like to film that bead shop with me, because I've seen some interest in that. So that should be coming here in the next couple of weeks too. So anyway, that's what you can expect to see from the channel and from me. Anyway, that is everything. So I'm gonna head off here and get this edited. It's 4:15. The sun is quickly setting on me, so I'm gonna head off. I hope that everybody's well. I hope that you're stitching. As always, be kind, and I will see you next time.